Yeah, it's a bit time. It feels like it kind of shrunk. I'm not going to say hand-to-hand combat, but subduing a perpetrator, and we didn't have tasers. We didn't want to use a pepper spray. I almost killed a guy.
Can you tell us that? Can you do that in like 5 minutes?
But so Iceland was also without a king.
Billy Club. Look at that.
This is what I got issued when I entered the police.
Okay.
So
Calling all units. Donut shop has a fresh dozen. Go ahead and take a 1040.
All right, I'm going to talk to the main one. What's up, everybody? I'm here on location in Iceland with my friend Hilmir, and he is a now former police officer in Iceland. So I'm here on vacation, and he's invited me into his home, into his museum of movie props, and now we're here doing a show. So what's up, my friend?
yeah, I'm doing good.
Yeah, we'll toast with water.
Yeah, water. Yeah,
Now, with some good Icelandic water.
straight from the well.
Yep, right off the glacier.
Yes.
All right, my friend. So, what are we doing here? We're here, and I want to talk to you about being a police officer, because the podcast is about being, is a police officer, and we've got the donuts here, and so you just recently left the police force. What's going on? How long were you a police officer? And kind of tell me a little bit of the story.
Well, it started in 1998.
98, yeah.
That's when I joined the force. So that was way up east in Aylstad, where you were a few days ago.
Okay. Eastern Iceland.
Yeah. And the reason I ended up there was I started applying, and I kind of just wanted also a change of pace. I wanted to go to the police here in Reykjavik, in the capital. But it was because I wasn't done with the police academy or the police school at that time, and there was in '97 they changed the entries for the police academy. So before that you were working in some district, and they would send police cadets to the school. In '97 they changed it, so it was just an open application, so you could apply, which I did. I didn't get in at that time, and it was really difficult to get into the. It was not the Metropolitan Police then; it was just the Reykjavik Police Department, and so I just threw out applications. I have relatives in the east, and got hired there first summer. I did like 3 days of like a course, but I had to qualify, so I had to run, I had to pass that, swimming, and then all kinds of spelling, and so we sat in a classroom, and the guy was just reading this, text.
Hey, I had a tough time with my spelling stuff.
This was, this was really, really difficult. But I passed because the year before, when I tried for the police academy, I was fairly good at spelling, but then I found out that they weren't joking with the spelling test.
No, they're very...
I failed that one.
Yeah.
But so I prepared and just went over all the Icelandic rules of spelling, passed, then I could, start applying, ended up in the East.
Well, let me interrupt a little bit about that. With Iceland, and I'm going to compare it because most of the audience is going to be in the U.S., and so you've got your federalized law enforcement, which is going to be national, and then you have states. Then you have counties or smaller jurisdictions, and then you go all the way to like where I work for a city.
Yeah.
How's Reykjavik, how's Iceland break down with sort of that hierarchy, or is there?
Yes. So it was also in '97 that they formed the National Police Commissioner of Iceland. Mm-hmm. So we had different before that time and way before I mean the police in Keflavik Airport, they were run by the treasury. Then we had local police that were run by the township. And so there were a lot of kind of variation, but it still was just, like one police. So the police uniforms were all the same around the country,
okay.
all the markings, everything.
Okay.
Then in 97, the National Police Commissioner was formed, and it was like this office that was supposed to kind of
Standardize?
Yeah, standardize everything. And kind of just before that and after that, the police fell under just the federal budget.
Mm-hmm.
And so every police officer in Iceland, I would call, is a federal employee.
Yeah.
And even though we have the National Police Commissioner, who's kind of the head of the structure, but then we have, different precincts. We have the Metropolitan area,
Mm-hmm.
then we have the police in the east and the south, and but they all work under the same
umbrella, the same commissioner.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I have the the police authority. I can use it all around Iceland.
Okay.
And what I was going to say about that is, so we don't have any different procedures. So we have Reykjavik, then we have Egilsstaðir,
Mm-hmm.
and we have all the same. How do you say?
Right. The rules and the laws. So that the procedure for the police is the same, whereas in the United States, because each state is different.
Yeah.
I mean, we just have different type of government format.
Yeah.
With Iceland being a whole, and versus the United States is a whole of many, whole of 50 different nations, kind of.
Yeah.
So going from Florida to New York is going to be, we're going to have different rules. And so when we talk on podcasts sometimes with these things, we get a lot of comments where people start sometimes debating or arguing because a police officer on a podcast may have said something that they know to be a true story in their state or their city, but then somebody in a different state, no, you can't do. No way, you wouldn't be able to do that in our. The same thing as if I were to say something for Florida, and then you would be like, yeah, we wouldn't be able to do that in Iceland.
No.
That kind of thing. No. So at least as far as Iceland's concerned, if you're in the Northeast or the Northwest, you're playing by the same playbook.
Same rules.
So
we deal the same with. Drinking under the influence in the Metropolitan area, and they do the same in Egilsstaðir.
Mm-hmm.
Marijuana is not allowed in this part of Iceland and is allowed there. So we have to follow all the same rules. So there's not going to be any. So it's all standardized.
Yeah.
So we can,
Except for the fact that this place is 50% filled with tourists.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a full you have half a nation basically of tourism that are all showing up here with their own rules, and they but we could do this in our country. And
I have a lot of funny stories when dealing with tourists from the States when they're breaking the law, and they have a real hard time wrapping their head around how much authority the police in Iceland has.
Yeah.
So I can pull you over.
Yeah.
Just, I don't need a probable cause.
Yeah.
I don't need a broken taillight.
Mm-hmm.
You're driving, I can just
you just want to have a conversation with me, and you can stop
I can
me.
pull you over. It's in the traffic laws in Iceland.
Yeah.
I can get your driver's license. I can look you up in the system. I can pretty much do all these things. I don't need a probable cause. And if you're driving under the influence of alcohol or narcotics, then we have this, the same procedure everywhere. So I would kind of, try to see if you're under the influence, look at your eyes or something. But I don't do the, alphabet and if I suspect you're drinking, I just let you blow in the we call it the SD2, and if I get a reading there, then I basically arrest you. We go to the police station, we get a nurse, and I take your blood.
Oh wow, yeah.
And no matter what you say or what you do, we're going to get that blood.
Wow.
And I've had tourists from the States who are, citing,
freedom
and Constitution and
Fourth Amendments of the United States Constitution. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care. We're going to get that blood, and if we're going to take it by force, we are going to do it.
Wow. So I shouldn't send this clip to tourism bloggers to say
no. But it's the the extreme cases. But usually people just they just follow along.
Yeah.
But there have been incidents that I've been involved in, and years ago.
Is blood a mandatory piece in every drunk driving case?
Yeah, and if you're driving, under what do you call it?
Influence
of drugs or anything. So I'm translating as I go.
Yeah, thank you.
And so the difference is if I suspect you of driving under the influence of narcotics. Then the
breath test isn't going to be as valid sometimes.
So we usually have this little cup that we get people to pee in, or kind of a mouth swab. But the pee test it's much more accurate.
Oh, that's a fun one to collect. I'm sure.
Yes.
with people that don't necessarily want to help.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But if you deny doing like the pee test, we could suspend you just for that for 1 year, just for saying no.
Okay, yeah, it's similar to Florida.
Yeah, so you say no, okay, nope, we're going to take your blood. What? Yeah. That's our only, option at this point.
Wow.
So people usually, when people say no, they're hiding something. But what will happen is that when I get the sample, I can see, okay, it's opioids or cannabis or this. So you give me a sample and it says THC. And I take your blood and we're just going to search for, that drug. Mm-hmm. But if I have to take the blood without getting the urine test, we're going to search for everything, and that's going to cost a lot more. Mm-hmm. And if we find that you are under the influence, that price tag is gonna go on top on your fine.
Oh, okay. So they'll add the cost of doing business kind of to your fines and your penalties that you'll pay monetarily. So some people don't realize, thankfully, if you guys haven't had DUIs, that they, aside from possible jail times, that you will pay penalties and fines, and then there's going to be reinstatements and stuff. So you're going to have extra plus here.
Yes, yeah.
So it's a large reason to not drive drunk. Aside from the fact of not hurting somebody or not damaging property or hurting yourself, doing that. You started to kind of break into a story before I interrupted you about DUI or something.
Oh yeah, there was it's a long time ago, so I don't think anyone's gonna pick up on that.
You don't have to use names.
No, I don't even know his name. So it was I was fairly new here in the Metropolitan area, and there was this guy from the States who was driving drunk and he hit some pedestrian. It was not serious, but when you hit someone, it kind of escalated all the paperwork and all the research, and so we didn't stop him, or we didn't how do you say we didn't catch him in the act because we came afterwards.
After the fact.
So he was there on scene for 15 minutes or something. And so the procedure at that time, we would take blood and then urine sample. And then an hour later, we would take another blood sample. So it was to see the state when the blood was taken and how the alcohol broke down in the system, and
Yeah.
that way they could figure out, his
Yeah.
levels. And he didn't want to give, the urine sample. After that, it has been taken out, so we don't use it. So we were there in the ER, holding him down while he was, praying to God, and the nurse had one of these catheters, putting it up his wiener.
Yeah.
And it was legal. It was covered in the
Icelandic
traffic
laws,
yeah.
traffic laws
No
to
matter-
allow it to
yeah.
happen. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I've held people down in the hospital, but that was mostly because they were mental patient, or we were Baker acting them, and we were taking them in for a psychological evaluation, and the person was just off there, and it was a scene from a movie, just strapping the hospital straps to the bed and everything, and the guy bent the first needle that they come in to kind of calm him down. He bent the first one because he was fighting, and we had all kinds of people and hospital staff, and it was so. I can't imagine and then dealing with somebody's, as you said, wiener.
Luckily, it was the nurse, and
That's not a training that you guys have to go through.
No.
Okay. Early on with the tasers, we were allowed to remove the prongs ourselves, and I was completely fine with that. And then they finally put a stop to that and said no more officers taking the taser prongs. Hospital staff has to do that, and so we would. All right, but I always say, I remember I was allowed to just pinch and pull, and here it comes out, and you have a Band-Aid ready, and slap a Band-Aid on there, and you'll be fine. All right, well, we broke one direction into stories and an example of some traffic laws, but get me back in a little bit into your history, kind of when you started. We sort of explained it was regional, or it was kind of all over the place when you first started, and then you broke in, and then
I started in the East, and so I had 3 days. It was like this course before I was allowed to start working. And so I show up there in the middle of almost nowhere with 3 days of training
knowledge,
and the sergeant handed me the keys to the car and said, "I'm not worried about you, alone."
And you were how old?
I was 23.
23. Okay, that was my age when I started. Yeah.
So thinking back then, I'm not sure how I managed to pull it off. Really wet behind the backs, no training, nothing whatsoever. Was there for it was 2 summers, and because you were allowed to step in not as a reserve, you were a fully fledged police officer with all the rights and privileges and whatever you call it, but you didn't have the academy.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2000, I came here into Reykjavik, or the metropolitan area. Started working in Hafnarfjörður. It's a town next over it. It's basically just Reykjavik, Kópavogur, and Hafnarfjörður.
So, but sorry, I'll pull you back there.
Yeah.
So when you were still in the East, and you put on full-blown uniform, and you're out there in a marked car, and you're responding to calls, just with life experience, just trying to be a human being and help human beings figure out their issue. Was there any training on paperwork or anything you had to do? You gathered information and kind of went back to the station and said, "Hey, somebody help me."
There was no one to help. I was alone.
Just you're the sheriff, and here you are.
Well, we got a little introduction, into the system we were using, but it was just show us how.
I can't imagine that in '97 you said
98.
98 that there was much computer. There was probably a little bit of computer power. Most of it was handwritten or paper.
It was in computer. So
I'm more ancient then, I guess.
Every report and so we wrote the report, and then we had like a journal. So we it was how do you explain? we wrote the report, but then we had this journal, and it was on a separate system. So there we put in the time and date and all the information about the people who were involved, license plates and so on, and put a little text. Basically what happened. There was a car crash in ended up in the river. Then we could open up another window, so it was kind of a follow-up. So you could flip through it and see, what we were doing.
Oh, okay. So they were small, just briefs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's like a police blotter.
Yeah.
Like I know when I visited a friend in NYPD, in their precinct, they've got a huge room with bookcases, and you just go and you just grab and you pull this book out. And what was their desk sergeant basically said, what each officer went and did. Amazing penmanship and everything. And so I'm looking 1967, April 4th, 10 p.m.
It's
and
basically
it's just a small officer went to a disturbance at an apartment, and it was just basic little note, and that was it. Yeah. And then I guess it kind of tells you whether you want to go look more to find the report to then now get in depth.
Yeah. So you could see, okay, I'm not going to open up the report for this.
Yeah.
But all the information I inputted when I opened up the report, it came up there. So I didn't have to do it in the report
Twice.
as well.
Yeah.
And then, wrote the report.
Yeah. Cool.
But computers were, at least in '97, they were common.
Available. Oh.
But we didn't have the cellular phones where they were entering the market, so the signal were just localized. Basically here in the south, in the metropolitan area, up in Egilstaðir, there was some signal, but we had the NMT system. Do you know what that is? NMT was a mobile phone system here in Europe. They've disbanded it, and the phone was this big. Didn't have radios. It was just
he's showing about 8 inches tall for anybody listening on the podcast side.
Yeah. And at some places there wasn't any coverage. So I was up somewhere way out there, and I didn't have any coverage on the phone. So there were a lot of challenges working there, long distances, and
so you guys
no backup.
And you guys are using radios too, or
there were. Just CB radios.
Okay, so it's dodgy as well, in the mountains and stuff.
Yeah. But today we of course we have cellular, and we also have a system called Tetra, which is a communication system used by police, firefighters, rescue, Coast Guard, and so on. And it has a pretty good coverage. Okay. And then you can basically be in the middle of nowhere, and you have communications with the incidents center. So like we have the eruptions, so we have a center by the main fire station where we have the police dispatch. It's like everyone comes to that point that needs to coordinate emergency services. So you have police, fire, electricity, water, someone from the town council, and it's just like this control center. Yeah, and everybody can use this.
It's an emergency operations center, like for us, like a EOC, that sort of thing. Getting that all together. You mentioned eruptions, but I'll talk about that in a little later in another section. Let me take a quick break, and we'll come right back. Hey, what's up, guys? Just so you know, we created a Donut Shop Podcast Clips channel. Just clips, meat and potatoes. Some of the best parts of each of our episodes are going to be over on that channel. You can go check it out. Hit the link down in our description. Like, follow, and subscribe. All the stuff over on that channel too. Help us out. All right, we're back. So you started to get into coming over to the Metropolitan side, which would be more like the capital of Reykjavik in the kind of southwest of the island. Is it considered southwest?
Yeah.
But how many police across the country are there? Would you say, is that something we should just be Googling?
Yeah, I want to say about 700.
700.
Yeah.
So like when I see 2 officers in one of the small towns that I was in, they're just 2 of 700.
Yeah.
So wow.
On the island.
On the island.
Yeah.
Wow. The whole island just,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of uninhabited area or sparsely, especially towards the middle.
Yeah.
Most of the population's really focused more towards the sea or towards the edges of the island. If you're inside, you're good luck. Or if you're up on a glacier or something like that. So you should probably have watched a documentary on Iceland prior to listening to this podcast, because I may glance over some stuff. Not that I'm an expert, but I've spent the last 9 days here, so I'm just a fine bit entrenched in the culture a little bit to understand some of it. But it's so interesting, and I enjoy traveling to different places, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to Hilmir as that. He was a police officer up until just a month ago.
Yeah.
So you came to Reykjavik, this area here,
in
Metropolitan.
Yeah, in 2001, I entered the police academy.
Okay.
It was in 2001. It was in January, and in December same year we graduated. So what they did, they kind of cut off. We had it was 2 semesters, and then the summer, which we worked, but how would you say, like
phases? So you described it as 11 months long, but there's a portion in the middle of it where you're just back to work.
Yeah, we're just working as cadets. Prior to that year, that used to be 1 year. So the school would be 1 year while you were working in between the semesters, but they cut it down to 1 summer at that time. So the school was just 1 year, and
so from start date to graduation,
it was January until late December.
But then in the middle, so you weren't in classes or learning or testing during the summer. Mostly because it's high season for tourism, so they just need the bodies, they need the manpower to go back to work. So you had already had 3 years or so under your belt, as working. Would you say everybody in that academy was the same, or were there green?
Majority had experience on their back.
So was this when they kind of decided to standardize things and sort of get everybody set, or had that academy already? Well, it was already going on.
Oh yeah. They changed the academy in '97, so they had 97, 98, and 99. They didn't have a class of 2000, so we came in 2001, and so they pretty much had entered, that.
Standard time.
Yeah.
And there's only one academy that goes on at a time. It's not like when I was in it. Granted, there was 40 people in my class, and then 3 weeks later they start the next class, and then they start, and so everybody's kind of. But it's multiple organizations, multiple agencies in one class. So.
They changed it a few years ago, so they moved it up to academic level. So you have to.
I saw that. I read online that it goes through the university.
Yeah, you have to university. Then you do the specialized police training with the police, academy or school, whatever you want to call it. So then you have different groups coming in and.
So is it the now that part of it is kind of university based? Are you just learning theory and kind of getting
police science?
So criminal justice degree, but in a shortened portion.
Yeah, they do more of the practical stuff at the police academy. They call it. I'm not going to even try to translate it.
Okay, but like the defensive tactics, the situations, the firearms.
Yeah.
So, any kind of qualifications. Do you learn karate, kung fu?
No, we use
jiu-jitsu now.
No. we use a system that was developed by the police in Norway. So it's just a thick booklet, and every tactic we use in succumbing a perpetrator or whatever. So it's a training we go through, because if I go to court and I have to, describe the way I arrested the person, and I might be asked, why did you use this? And I said, because I was taught that in the academy.
Correct.
But I'm going to get into trouble if I used something and my response is, and he, I'm asked, did you get that training in the police academy? And I would say, no. Then you're in trouble. So we kind of have to be able to tell them, we do use this because, we had the training.
Okay. And so like if I went to Norway, it's very similar as far as the training and stuff. And just for those geographical challenged people, Norway is not far from here.
No, but of course, it's a system, it's a good system, but often you have to improvise because every situation doesn't necessarily have to, fit. Yeah. This part of the training, so sometimes you have to improvise. Yeah. But of course you would have to be able to describe why you did that, and not because just because no, it
felt like punching him in the face.
He deserved it. No, but nobody wants to see a head choke or something. We don't do it, but if a situation would call up to it, and you had good reason to use that, it's not in your training, but something you know how to do, and if you could describe the situation to the judge, and it was serious, and people were in danger, and I just couldn't use a hand over something. I just had to react.
Yeah, it was the only thing presented to me at the time was to be able to grab him by the neck or choke, or I know that where the head goes, the body's going to go, and it just there was limited to no options for me at the time, and off I went. What was it? I forget exactly what I was thinking of a question, but so 700 people. Across the police force, and yes, we were talking with the university program, and being that it was sort of based around what Norway has, and so that's what you guys are learning, and so the summer kind of breaks up that academy time, and you finish all of that, and so you've done your studies now and learned the process of policing, the police science, as you said, and then you go in and you learn the tactics and sort of the rules, the playbook that police now, you can learn about policing, but then you have to learn how the job is done. Yeah. You do that. Do you go on a field training, or then now you kind of most of you had experience out there on your own learning it. But do you have to go and get it evaluated?
No. That's something that is done while you're in the training phase, like when we're doing the summer.
Oh, during the summer, you said you.
So that you're kind of under evaluation there. So if you mess up, that's the time to fix that. But basically, after and when you get the graduation, after that, evaluation over. And
do you weed out, or do you have attrition in the academy? Is there a lot of people that fall off?
It depends. It's. Usually people fall off the train during when you're doing the testing to get into the academy, the physical and some knowledge studies and that sort of stuff.
So they do a pretty good job pre-academy.
Yeah. So you might do the run because you have to run 2 or 3 kilometers. It was 3 when I did it. Then right after that, you have to do a swim test. It was 600 meters at my time. I think it's 200 meters an hour or something.
In the cold water.
No, yeah, no, it's just in a pool.
Yeah.
But I know some people they've been focused on the running, and they just no problem, I can swim. Then you go, and you have to swim.
Yeah.
And some fail there because they didn't prepare for the swimming part.
Wow.
Or they fail, the running part, or they fail
The spelling.
The spelling,
Yeah.
So there are, kind of these parts that,
So it's a strong application process.
Yeah. But then you get into the academy, and when I was in the academy, if you failed 2 tests, then you were out.
Okay.
You were allowed to fail at least one test or 2. Can remember.
Yeah.
And you got it was just one, and then you had the chance to
Make up or
make
redo
up.
it.
Yeah. And if you failed that one, then you're
Goodbye.
out. Or you could come back. It depends. If you were into the second semester, or let's call it third semester. So it was the first semester, then the second, which was the summer, then the third. Let's say you failed, report on the third semester, then you would not be able to graduate, but you could come in a year in the next class or
Oh, okay.
so if I failed at 2001, I would be able to graduate with 2002 class.
Oh, okay. So somebody can come
Yeah.
in semester 3.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you've made it through 1 and 2,
Yeah.
you come back for 3
Yeah.
and have another go at
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
About how many are in the academy classes?
Now, if we go back to my time, I think we were about 40.
40
That was,
in that one.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
pretty much at that time. But like I said, now they have they are in all kind of different phases of training.
Okay. So it's a little more like how I was describing. So like you might have a class, a small class, and then you've got another small class, and they're just bouncing around, churning them out. Okay. So, but it's not a massive amount. I mean, with 700 total, you're not pushing out 100-person classes.
No.
But you have people coming of age, retiring, leaving, or injuries. There's many different reasons to leave police work through that. So you moved. So that's the academy. Awesome explanation of the academy and stuff. Thank you. You moved over into, and now you've finished the academy, and you're in this metropolitan area. How's that go?
Well, kind of just showed up at work after the academy, and like with everyone who starts, you're a rookie.
Yeah.
And but when I came in, we were pretty much just thrown into the deep end. We were soon after we came to work, we were like a supervisor, because we were always 2 police officers in one car.
Right.
You never, or seldom, there was a guy one in.
Yeah, mostly that's what I've seen is
there are always
the
2
cars riding around with 2.
Yeah. So I found myself the first year after the academy, I was the supervisor usually on a car. So it depended on the number. So my police number was 117 or 0117. So the 01 was 2001. 17 was my number in the line of the class.
Oh, okay.
So then there was a class of 02. So my number would, as the number was lower, you pretty much, were a supervisor. And it kind of just went on the number. So when they were putting up the call sheet for the car, usually when they were the one who had the lowest number, he was in charge of the patrol car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, officer in charge, the OIC.
Yeah,
OIC, of the car.
Of the car, yeah. And kind of went that for a few years. Additional training. I did like riot training, firearms training. airport security training. So a lot of things kind of, I found myself in.
Because the metropolitan area is, with Reykjavik being the largest city in Iceland, and it has a major airport nearby.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have all the going-ons of a major city with population. So you're going to have protests or potential riots or need to go to a situation like that. You said firearms training. Now talk to me about firearms. We, a lot of us know, we look at the UK or we look at Europe, a lot of Europe, and don't see firearms as far as America. Everybody's got 2 or 3 of them on them at all times.
Yeah.
What do you guys do for firearms, or how's that work out?
All right. So when I got into that firearms thing, when I was at the academy, it wasn't a lot of firearms training then, but then there was an assignment that came up with the Reykjavik airport, so we had to have presence there because of international flights, and so we were armed, and we did some training around that. It was just Glock. It was
so it's a sidearm on a belt, pistol belt, just like you would see an American police officer.
And we would just suit up. There was a gun safe at the police station. But then as we kind of move nearer to, today, kind of these gun or firearms in the cars. A few years ago, there were these safes put in the car, and you got a number from dispatch if you need to be armed, and it would have to go through, a process. And steadily they increased, the firearms training.
So citizens as a citizen or a civilian, a person in Iceland, it's mostly hunting, right? Hunting weapons, weapons for hunting, but otherwise there's no. You're not really. There's not concealed carry where you're carrying handguns.
No.
Do citizens or residents of Iceland possess handguns?
Yeah, some, yes. We have a fair amount, but there are strict laws around that.
Strict laws as far as purchasing or importing them.
And importing. A few years ago, the Justice Minister, he put a ban on import on handguns.
Okay.
So, like if you owned a Glock, after that time, it quadrupled in price.
Oh, okay.
Because you couldn't import any handguns after that point.
Is that still in effect today?
Yeah.
Okay, so handguns, the faucet got turned off.
Yeah.
You just have hunting style rifles that are allowed to be purchased through brokers or stores here, that they are carried in their house or through travel. Probably, I'm making assumptions now. Through travel to hunt.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Yeah. So you have to have if you have 2 firearms or more, you have to have a safe, and you just can't show up and buy a firearm. You have to have gone through the process and training before you can buy the firearm. Okay. And so you've gone through that training, you can buy the firearm, but then you have to do another training if you want to go hunting. Mm-hmm. And so you start off with a license, so that's 22 caliber rifle and a just double shotgun. Then after a year, you can move up to the B portion. Then you can go up to a higher caliber.
So you have to go through time as well as trainings.
Yeah, then you could get a pump action shotgun or a.
Wow. All the way, just a pump action shotgun.
Yeah.
When I think in Florida, we used to be allowed to just walk into a Walmart and buy a pump action shotgun.
Nah, it's not true.
Don't
do that here.
When you're 18, go buy yourself a pump action shotgun. I can't even talk. That's so. All right, so just to kind of give listeners background of what you guys are running into, aside from perhaps illegal firearms
we've got some of those
in society or out there, probably not as prevalent as America.
No.
But you go to things. So the way you explained it, you said there's a safe in the car with a firearm. Is that every car?
Yeah.
So there's
most
safe
of
in
them,
there.
most of them. If we like first responders patrol cars, then we have a bunch of other police cars that are not first responders.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So you say you'll get a number through dispatch. So you're on the way to a call.
Yeah.
The dispatch says you're going to probably need a gun for this.
Yeah.
They give you a code. You get it out prior to.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would have to stop over somewhere and
mount up.
mount up because
Yeah.
when you're suiting up to use a firearm, then we have to put on added
Jet
protection,
vests.
Kevlar helmet.
Wow.
That's I just don't put on a gun and
Yeah.
I have to do all these
Because
things.
you're not necessarily already wearing.
we
a
have
vest.
we have body armor.
You have body armor
Yeah.
that you're wearing daily,
Yeah.
but without a firearm.
Yeah, so
But
I
you're-
would put on the ceramic plate. And,
Okay, a better,
Yeah.
higher caliber, and then you'd put on like a helmet.
Yeah.
And then you'd show up to a call.
Yeah.
It's-
Oddly enough, I never suited up for.
really?
No.
Okay. So it's fairly rare that type
It's
of
increasing.
It's
Yeah,
increasing.
yeah.
With hunting rifles, with illegal handguns, or
Usually it's incident involving knives. There's a lot
Okay.
of knife problem, but
Okay.
we are getting
so a
firearms.
knife, a hot knife call.
Yeah.
They'll pass on the code to get a
Yeah.
firearm because
Yeah.
you want to kind of level up.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you don't want to go hands on
No,
with a guy
no, no.
swinging a knife.
But usually SWAT would be also called, and they would at least show up with one of these rubber
A baton, like a
rubber
like a pellet
pellet
type.
gun. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, like a bean bag or
Yeah, it's a yellow rifle. So
Okay.
But usually when people see that, they're not gonna mess around.
they know they're going to
Yeah,
get hurt.
yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean this is kind of getting into the nuts of it right here. the interesting stuff that I think a lot of people are going to be curious about. So the SWAT or special operations type, are they also out in the cars, or are
Yeah,
they like
yeah.
part time where they have to get called in?
Yeah.
They're
But usually they have I don't know, one or two cars, so they're out there on patrol. But they do a lot of training, so they're really specialized.
okay.
So they wouldn't show up at someone stealing from a store or something.
Okay.
But they are called if it's a high incident, if it's involves a gun or a knife or
Just a large disturbance, maybe
Yeah,
at
yeah,
a
exactly,
pub
yeah,
or something
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
Guys
yeah.
breaking beer bottles,
yeah,
or,
exactly, yeah.
or throwing stuff.
Yeah.
So okay, so yeah, they're just a high risk.
Yeah.
They're reserved for more high risk incidents
yeah.
that they're going to be dispatched out to or sent out to. That's super interesting. That because otherwise you guys are showing up just to a normal, cat in a tree call.
Yeah, exactly,
And
yeah.
you're in normal uniform, but
Yeah.
without the gun and weapon.
Yeah, yeah.
Tasers.
We I did the taser training. We were implementing the new taser with you have 10 prongs.
Yeah, Taser 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so
a-
it
that's a
doesn't
new one.
shoot two, so I have to aim one rocket.
Yeah, one
Then I have to find the next spot and,
Yeah.
and I have 10 tries. So I did that training
Uh-huh.
just before I signed off.
Okay.
And
Yeah, that one it's since the beginning of our use of tasers, at least at my agency, that's one of those. This new Taser 10 has kind of been something that I've always thought, like, man, like, because there was a point, I forget which one it was. I think it wasn't the X26 where you had to change cartridge
Yeah,
off
yeah.
the bottom. That was a pain in the butt. It was the second one that we got, the Taser, whatever, 7, I think is what we have now, or what we had before.
Yeah.
And I said, like, or I would say, why can't we just use it as like a stapler gun, like
Yeah.
where you just bah, bah,
Yeah.
and then now you've got your circuit created
Yeah.
and you go. And that's kind of, it appears, what they've gone to, and
Yeah.
mostly probably through experience and what
Yeah.
they've seen with us in our
Yeah.
dumb brains when
Yeah.
we get into a stressful situation and what happens. And all these trainings, you're always, for tasers, you're always sitting there. I'm listening to them and I'm like, all right, where did we screw that one up? Who created that rule?
Yeah,
Because it's always these rules and these parameters that we have to go through are always because we did something out there.
Yeah.
The taser goes, oh, we didn't think about that one.
Yeah.
And that's what they got to do. And
Yeah,
so the
that
taser
that was kind of what we talked about in the training. Like in the States, there were just tasers thrown on police officers, and this is gonna save everyone. Then you had guy, catching on fire because
falling off of a balcony,
falling off of a roof, and so we went through all that. And so the new taser, I can't use it like like a taser.
You can't drive stun somebody.
No.
Yeah,
But we trained that I could put it into your body.
Dart me real close.
Yeah, and bink, and then I go to your thigh and junk.
So my staple gun method, where you're hitting a staple gun and you're putting up a poster, you're just putting that poster on the guy or on the bad person. And
So if it was really close, and I could put it into his into his chest, and I would fire a prong. Then I have to draw it. Then I go for the thigh, and then I would get connection.
Hopefully you're getting the cycle, and then it's getting the muscular reaction that you're looking for. The purpose of the taser. So, all right, so you guys have tasers. What at the end of the table you've got a whooping stick.
The billy club.
The billy club. Look at that.
This is what I got issued when I entered the police.
Okay.
So in our trousers there was a special pocket.
Okay.
The length of that, so I could usually carried it, on our thigh.
But it's concealed.
It was concealed.
Your pants.
Yeah. So there was this. There was this. When I started, you kind of wanted.
It's a mini baseball bat.
Yeah.
For those listening,
Yeah.
it's a mini baseball bat with some good hand thickness to it for grooves. But basically, it's about the size of the baseball bat that you would get at a Yankees game for a baseball bat night.
But there was this mentality that you would
and a leather strap for your wrist.
Yeah. So there was this mentality that we wanted to hide. Our equipment,
right?
And it carried on, well into my days as a police officer. That, we didn't want to, it was
intimidation.
We want to lower the intimidation, but it doesn't apply today.
Yeah,
so we would use it like this.
Okay. Yeah, you wrap it around your palm, wrap the leather around your palm, or using it on your thumb, and then so that way it kind of stays in case it gets slippery.
Yeah.
And then it's got some dings on it. Yeah. Hopefully that wasn't kitchen counter, and it might have been somebody's meaty part of their arm.
Yes, or a window or.
Okay, all right. You use it to open up a window.
Yeah.
When you say the presentation, I loved when I started. We had the brand Monotnock, which was it's kind of a rubberized baton, but longer, and I loved it because I had the loop on my belt, and it sat down next to my seat, and when I get out of the car, I'd pull it out and drop it in, and it was sitting there ready to go, and I always felt like it was a way to kind of show business. I'm not going to get out to like you say, a shoplifter call or a theft call and drop that in. But if I'm going to a domestic argument or a loud, even a loud party, man, fuck them. Yeah. Like, I'm going to drop that thing in, and then they're going to go, all right, forget the gun on his side. That thing comes out a lot faster and easier.
So, then as the year, came on, or I can't remember, 2000 something, we got the extendable baton.
Okay, yeah,
and there was
asp.
this, So we got this plastic one.
Oh.
It was, I don't know why it ended up, because it was supposed to be lighter. It was specifically used for or intended for police officers who were doing like bicycle patrol or something in the States. So it was they wanted it to be light, and it had this little steel nub at the end, and but it was so flimsy, so we would pull it out, and it would break, and you were trying to break a window, and it would break, and you had one time I had this guy in a.
He's looking over his shoulder towards his where his family is sitting in another room.
I had a rookie with me who was not engaging. We were in a fight, so I have this guy. I have him in a rear chokehold, and I have this.
Oh, move your microphone around.
I have this asp in my hand, and I'm just whacking him from behind. And it was plastic, and it wasn't doing
nothing.
anything.
Yeah.
So later on, we moved on to a more metal extendable baton, and you could feel it. One time there was this fast food restaurant. They were making these subs, and I was just coming in there for a late snack, and, and there was this fight going on when we step in, and I take out my baton and whip it up.
Yeah.
And it made this metal sound, just high noise, wham, and the guys who were fighting, they heard it, and they immediately stopped. Huh? No, don't hit us.
Yeah.
But then we also have the bigger one.
Yeah.
Not rubber. It's plastic, but it's
hard,
really hard. And so we had this little loop that we could put it in, but there was always some problem with it. So I just took it and I just put it into my belt like a sword.
Yeah. There's a point to some of the intimidation or the presence that is given by some of these weapons or some of these items that we might carry on us that hopefully we never have to use. They see it and then they understand.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's take another quick break and then we'll be right back. Hey, come here. No, bring it in real close. I got something for you. Did you subscribe yet? Right down there. Hit that subscribe button and the bell notification because you got to know when we're going to give you a show. Do it. Go now. I'm waiting. Come on. Right there. All right, back to the show. All right, we're back, and we're going to do this last section or last segment a little brief just because he's got to get to a dinner. I did get one response from the social media world from the boys over at Anti-Hero Podcast. They wanted to know, I asked who wanted to ask a question to an Icelandic police officer. They wanted to know how Iceland feels or if they're still upset about the loss that they got from Gordon Bombay and the Mighty Ducks in the Mighty Ducks 2, I think. Was it a national tragedy? Or?
Of all the questions. You could have asked so much, but 90s Disney movie. I don't think anyone really remembers it. The one thing I remember was that the bad guys were supposed to talk Icelandic. Yeah. They spoke, I don't know, but it didn't sound Icelandic to me.
No. Okay.
So we kind of don't care.
Oh, okay. So Iceland just really is just trying to forget is what you're saying.
Yes,
It's just, it was so bad. Okay. That you're trying to forget. All right, cool. Thank you for that. Boys over at Anti-Hero Podcast. Thank you very much. Check them out. I'm sure you already have. So you recently resigned. You told me 26 years and I'm like, all right, sweet. That's a cool pension. Because for me, that'd be a cool pension. How long does an Icelandic police officer usually work for or have to work for? Or like, how's that really work for you guys?
65.
To the age 65.
Yeah.
So you started when you were 23.
Yeah.
So it's just 22, right? 32 years?
Yeah.
Can't do math.
No.
42 years.
42, yeah.
42 years you'd have to work for.
Yeah.
So you would have to work to 65, and then do you get sort of a public pension or a government?
So it's a different system here. So from the day we start to work, we a portion of our salary goes to like a pension, pension plan or whatever.
Retirement or
a
savings.
Yeah, but we don't get access to that until we're 65.
Okay.
So I could quit the police and start something else, but I won't get access to that pension until I'm 65.
Okay, so 60. So even if you did 35 years, but you started when you were 20, you'd
Yeah.
be 55. You'd still have to wait 10 years to
Yeah.
receive that.
Yeah.
Is there a national, like a Social Security in America? Is there a national, like, retirement for, someone that's not a police officer, doesn't work in government service?
Oh, yeah. So you have to. So if I work as a clerk at a supermarket, I pay to another pension. I call it a pension.
Yeah.
It's kind of this. So you have to be a part of a union, and if you're part of that union, they have this kind of life savings or pension plan that you put a portion of your salaries into. So when I'm a police officer, I pay portion to the policeman's union. Then I pay a portion to the pension plan that is connected to that union. But then I resign, so I go over to another union, and I pay my portion to another pension plan.
But your police stuff is still available and valid, and now you're just paying into something different.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just you're not, in America with these pension plans, we almost feel towards the end, some of us may, like we're almost in a prison where we're like, oh, I can't leave because I'm leaving so much on the table. I'm almost speaking for myself. Like I have a year and a half left to hit 20, and I'm like, if I left now, I'd be really stupid because it kind of explodes or it becomes bigger. It makes much more sense in a year and a half than if it does right now. Yeah. But whereas for you, it's not so much of a big deal.
No.
It's even better. You were telling me the other night when we were hanging out that you're doing better. You're doing better in your new career. So all right, cool. So we don't have to be so worried about you. You're not getting kicked out of your house for resigning from police work. No. You're not going to be able to. Right. You're not going to be able to stop playing Star Wars and stuff. Because if I didn't really preface this, and I introduced him as Hilmir, but I know him through our Star Wars club, 501st Legion, that we met in Chicago during a Star Wars convention there, and he was this mysterious. Mean-looking fella in the lobby when we were all hanging out drinking with a lot of different people from around the world, and somebody goes, "Hey, you should go talk to that guy. He's a police officer too." And I was like, "Oh, really? Okay," because he looks kind of scary, and I guess I'll go over and talk to him. And he was just, like very quiet. I'm like, I don't know. He might not even speak English. I don't know. And so, and here we are. I'm in his house, recording him talk in English. On a microphone.
Yes, I do speak English.
Do you speak any other languages?
Icelandic, then Scandinavian,
which is just slang.
Well, we have Danish and Norwegian and Swedish, and then we just have Scandinavian, where we kind of just mix these things up.
It's a mix of all of them. Yeah, kind of like sometimes Spanish like bounces around depending on what country you're from. Yeah. Because the one woman that we had a tour from said that in school she had to learn, I think Danish, Icelandic, and English. Yeah. So is that like a modern,
Everybody has to learn Danish, probably connected to that we were under the Danish rule, and so Danish was really posh, and some people would speak Danish on Sunday, and
oh really?
then we were punished by learning Danish in school, and no one kind of was interested in it because we weren't speaking Danish,
Yeah.
So.
But you were under Danish rule for a long time.
Yeah, until 1944.
44. Okay.
Yeah,
so
in June 17th, 1944, we declared independence, and that came about because the Germans invaded Denmark. Yeah. So Denmark was without
government.
Without the king, without the throne. So Iceland was also without a king, without the head of the government. So they seized the opportunity and declared independence.
Ooh, well, the cat was away.
Yeah.
The mouse play.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So I'm glad that the resignation of the police force, but it's excellent history and excellent stories. And since we're pressed on time, I think if everybody wants, we should do some more over the air type like I don't know about a live, but a video podcast. I got to practice this video podcast because I'm not going to be able to. This traveling to countries thing is pretty awesome, but I don't know if I'm going to always be able to do it.
No.
But I want to hear some crazy stories. You were telling me on the break
we could be here for 3 hours.
Okay, so a 3-hour podcast of crazy Icelandic battles or calls.
I almost killed a guy.
Can you tell us that? Can you do that in like
I'll
5 minutes?
But it it doesn't sound like a. So there was this call. It was on Sunday morning. We were still. I can't remember if we were still on night shift or if we were still on night shift, and there is this report of a screaming lady, and we go downtown, and where's the screaming? It just echoed all over the place. Soon found out where we were supposed to go, and so my partner, he ventured off to the left, and he couldn't hear me because I said, we have to go through this alleyway. Go to the back. There was a stair up. It was 3 or 4 flights, and I met with this woman, and she said, "Oh, they're in there, and come up the flight of the stairs into a room. And there's this petite woman lying on the floor, and this huge guy, and he's basically standing on one foot, and his right foot is resting on the back of her head or on her neck. And she was just pinned down. So I screamed, give him an order, or he was just zoned out. I had my extendable baton in one hand and mace, so I pepper spray him. Mm-hmm. I told him I was going to pepper spray him. It didn't look like it was having an effect, and he was just doing this. So I jumped forward and kind of gave him a kick him off the girl. Then I saw that the door to the balcony was open, and and it was just the fence. It was just timber, and it would have never kept him. And I just see him, and he just kind of stumbles backwards to the door, and I was just, he's gonna.
Yeah.
But at the last second, he hits his shoulder into the doorpost and falls back in.
Oh, so you thought
I was watching him going.
You thought that your kick into him to get him off of her was going to cause him to stumble all the way out, break the banister, or break the railing, and fall 4 floors down to the whatever was below.
It was just concrete.
Oh man! Oh.
Like I said,
you almost killed a guy.
Yeah, if we were, where did you learn that?
Oh yeah,
where did you get the training?
Those were the follow-up questions that I was thinking to ask you. Like when you stopped and you said, I announced that I was going to pepper spray him.
Yeah.
Before I pepper sprayed him. Yeah. But where did you learn? I mean, but that's exactly like you said, what you would explain to the judge. I used pepper spray. Yeah. There was no effect. Yeah. The time was of the essence. I needed to get this guy off of him. Yeah. And the fastest reaction that I could do was to kick him. And he inadvertently stumbled and broke his neck.
Yeah. But luckily. Yeah. Because he could have, killed her in an instant if he just,
pushed down fully or whatever.
Because he was right on her, just on the floor, and his foot was on her neck.
Yeah, just a certain just extra weight. Yeah. Was that a type of a call where they would have given you, mom and dad said it was okay to pull the gun out, or did dispatch give you a code to get a gun, or you guys went in without?
We didn't have guns in the car at that time.
No. Oh, okay. So this was early on.
Yeah.
Do you think now, if you were on the road, they wouldn't have said gun for that?
It depends. We might get SWAT with us, but I'm not sure it would incident, would call for regular police to, arm up if it's just, a screaming lady, and there's no follow up. But
because then once you learn of it, then it's like things just unravel so fast.
But the guy standing on her, I would never, of course, pull a gun on him. He was unarmed, so it was more of an issue of subduing him and getting him, off her.
Yeah.
But it was a big guy. I wasn't gonna, jump on him.
Jump on him, wrestle him. A lot of, you think a lot of more injuries happen because you guys go hands on sometimes a little more.
Yeah.
You get Icelandic police officers that, gain injuries and stuff.
Yeah.
Or,
I know a lot of police officers who, my knee is busted from a fight. My shoulder got busted one time. Just number of things that and I know a lot of police officers who have been injured, broken a finger, or, and because we were always doing a lot of like, I'm not gonna say hand-to-hand combat, but subduing a perpetrator, and we didn't have tasers, we didn't want to use a pepper spray, we didn't have a gun. So it was more like hands-on.
Yeah, just an actual physical fight.
Yeah.
To try and overpower and win. And
win,
And it's do what you have to do.
Yeah. It's, I've been I've been fighting a guy who was going to hang himself. I think it was probably, we were standing, it was at probably 10 meters on top of, it was like these pallets for cargo.
A pallet.
Pallet. So they would put him into these shelves, and it was pretty high, and we were on top of it, fighting a guy who was going to hang himself.
Oh my god!
It was just, if he would fallen,
Wow. Yeah, he's going to hang himself up there, and all he had to really do was jump.
Yeah.
Wow, it's crazy. All right, well, those will all be some great stories for the Chronicles that we'll do. We'll try and get some other episodes because we need to wrap it up for you, so you can get over to your sister's house for dinner. And well, thank you very much, and I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, you
Hilmir,
wanted to do something with the hat.
Yeah, tell everybody your last name, because somebody
Kolbiens.
got mad and said. Somebody got mad that I didn't introduce one of my previous guests.
Yeah, last name Kolbiens.
Hilmir Kolbiens.
Yeah.
We'll do another cut and put that towards the front.
Yeah.
So what do we got? We got a hat here. I'm gonna pull my ears off. Put that winning Florida Panthers hat down. Look at that. There we go.
Got a bigger head than
I got a bigger head than you do, but it's
almost
a good service cap.
Yeah.
It's cool.
But let me try it. I haven't tried it on. It's it's a bit tiny. It feels like it kind of shrunk. It's been on the shelf for a year.
You said it was the younger days hat that you wore. So as we age, there's a little bit of fat and muscle goes to the head side.
Yeah.
All right, that's awesome. Well, thank you very much. I'll add that to the collection right there with the donuts. So, all right, everybody. Thanks. I'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Calling all units. Donut shop has a fresh dozen. Go ahead and take a 1040.